Hi everybody. Welcome to live sessions. Um Sorry for everybody who hopped on and it was just going crazy. I don't know what was happening. It just kept turning off. So hopefully we're okay now. um so yeah, welcome to Tuesday night with your girl. Tonight we have a really awesome night. We're gonna have the broadcast on, which I'm really excited for. And just talk music like we always do. So let's get into this. So I think he just joined. Yes, he did. Okay. Hi.
Hey,
I was like, oh gosh, it's not gonna work.
I've never done it live, so it looks like it's working.
Really? Well, welcome to your first live.
Water cheers.
How has your day been?
It's been a nice day. It's a little bit of sunshine. This morning was really, lifts the spirits a bit.
Yes.
So yeah, it's been a little bit of a slow day, but got some things done, caught up with somebody, and the little delay actually helped because I was able to grab a bite of food.
Hey, see, I'm here for you.
Yeah,
See? All
nailed it.
that is.
Nailed it. What about you?
I had a pretty good day. I hung out with my puppy outside and we answered emails and did our thing, made some phone calls. And yeah, I think I got a little sun, so that's
Oh
cool for me.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's been a really good day. I think the sun kind of brought out the best in everybody today. I think we all needed it in Washington.
Big time.
I see everybody hopping on. Thanks for coming on, everybody. Click, um, Night Owl, everybody. Yeah, Dream, let's go. All right, so my first question is how did you get into music? Like, what was the thing that just meant I'm gonna do it?
Yeah. Uh, I remember when I was much younger, maybe 10 years old, I had this spiral notebook.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like kind of small size. It was like a kid notebook. And it had
Yeah.
like some generic football player on it, like not even from a team, just like kind of a
Okay.
graphic of a football player.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I was like, I want to write songs in this. I want this to be filled with songs.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't really, know where that came from. I mean, I grew up doing a little bit of Sunday school, and there was always
Okay.
singing, and the
Yeah.
singing was my favorite part. And
Right.
then, my parents, had like some Alan Jackson CD and like the Beatles and stuff. Like those are like the first two that I remember, and
Yeah.
it wasn't even a real Beatles album. It was like and it wasn't the
Really.
Beatles one. It was like some other collection that had like "Love Me Do" and like the
Yeah.
oldest Beatles songs on it. But I think I've just always been sensitive to music.
Yeah.
It's like probably this is obviously true for you too, but it's always moved me a lot,
Yes.
and kind of like makes me feel alive more than other things in life. So yeah, I just wanted to participate. I just
Yeah.
had a drive to participate and had kind of like a sensitive spirit, or whatever, like in the terms of, the way that I experienced life. I was like, it just turns into songs.
Yeah.
Um, and so, like so back to when I was 10 with that notebook, I remember like I had this desire to write songs, but I just had nothing to write about. And then as I grew older, I just like, as I had life experiences, like my first kiss or like the first time something, or like a lot of times it's relationship stuff at that age, when you're
Yeah, it
younger,
is.
where you first start to have experiences outside of your family, but that
Yeah.
like have some depth. And so like, as I had those experiences, they would turn into poems that would turn into songs. So I guess, yeah, that's kind of the short end.
Yeah.
I played a little piano, like just took lessons. I didn't even play. I just took lessons and I didn't ever
Yeah.
practice. And then when I was 11, I just really wanted to play the guitar. my parents were like, all right, I found this electric guitar in the magazine. They were like, look, if you learn with your mom's like old whatever Yamaha guitar, if you learn all the chords, you know, like not all the chords, but like all the
Yeah,
basic chords,
basic.
like
Yeah,
major, minor, minor seven, major seven, dominant seven,
yeah,
for like these five keys, you know, so learn 25 or 35 chords, maybe it's all the
yeah.
keys, all the major keys, like no sharps or flats. But
Right.
then
Yeah.
then we'll buy you that $150, the Stratocaster that came with the little
Wow.
amp, the
Yeah.
free the they still do that, like the little
Yeah, they
package. They're
do.
like, we'll get the package. And I still
Yeah.
have that guitar.
Wow.
Um
How amazing.
yeah. So and then I just got into like trying to record. I never got super good at guitar. I'm working on it now. I'm actually picking it back up in a big way lately, but it's just been calling out. But I got good enough to like write songs. That was always my goal. Like I just wanted to fill my
Yeah.
notebooks with songs, and so the guitar helped me do that for a while. And then I learned to like produce things. Record a little guitar, program some drums, whatever. And then where I really found like a stride was with working with other people, where someone else who had more musicality as far as instruments or production goes,
Yeah.
where they could start making something, I could grab on with that and like be like, oh yeah, like basically we'd start writing together, and
Yeah.
then the best ones would be when we start from scratch, but they find something that we're like writing, and I start writing the words, and after an hour or two, we've got a song. So I
Yeah.
feel like all my best songs have been like that, but sometimes I like to self-produce things too. But I'm just a collaborator at heart.
You know what's funny is me too. I could sit and write songs all day. Well, I write all lyrics. I'm more the lyric person than I am the musicality part of it. But
Sure, same.
like you, I've been uh, picking up. I mean, I could play the guitar, but like I haven't done it so much that I could just whip it out and be like, I know what I want for a melody. Like it's just not me. Um, but I do play the drums, so there's sometimes I can hear the
Oh,
drums in the song rather than the guitar part of it. Um, and so yeah, I'm the same way. I collaborate with people, and I know so many like really uh, like talented people, so I feel like it's easier to share talent than to try and consume it all myself and figure it out. Rather just two heads are better than one, from is how I see it. And I love being able to and I don't know how to produce or anything, so I'll need somebody for that anyway, so I might as well just go to somebody who can do it all. That's how
yeah.
I feel about it anyway. I don't have the
It's
time in
funny.
my life to be able to produce.
Yeah. I have the inclination to do it all myself,
Yeah.
but it's just more fun to do it with other people,
Yeah,
like
it really is. I love the collaboration, like them thinking of something and me thinking of something, or me going, oh, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, that's genius. Or them going, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, that's perfect. It's just, I love that part of
yeah.
it.
For me, I love when that's like a one-on-one situation.
Yes.
I feel
Yeah.
like I'm a little bit of an introvert artist, like
Yeah.
sometimes, like I'm like one-on-one, I'm like, yeah, we can like just go places, and I'm looking to actually be a little more community oriented in like, creating with groups and more jams and stuff. But
Yeah.
my sweet spot has been like working with one other person because you can just go to the depths, and
Yes, for
yeah.
sure. How long has it taken you to write a song? Like, what's your longest song so far?
Oh. That's a good question. I'm gonna say a lot of songs I write really fast.
Really? Okay.
Like the album that I just put out, like I wrote most of those songs like almost like that, like a half
Wow.
hour, like
Yeah.
just kind of they came through. Longer, I mean, I just said that about the album, but one of those songs I wrote the first like I wrote like the scratch track for it in must have been in it was a couple years the process, or a year or two the process, because I wrote the scratch track in like 2019, maybe
Okay.
even 2018, and then I think it was like probably a year later, probably kind of when things were all crazy, I went back into it, and I like it was an interesting one where I realized if I change when I went back to it after many months, maybe a year, I realized that if I changed like two or three words, and I wish I remembered what the old one was, I could probably find it somewhere. But if I changed two
Yeah.
or three words, it would start to make sense. Like before, it
Oh,
had been kind of like a scratch track, kind of like a cadence and like
Yeah.
some rhymes and whatever, but it like didn't like make sense. It didn't have like any weight to it. And then I went back to it one night and I was like, whoa, if I just change like this, you know, and like make it like before the rise of the oceans, then suddenly it's like there's this gravity to what I'm talking about, but with this playful flow.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I don't know if that's the longest, you know, but there's songs that I'm still working on, so maybe those are the
Yeah.
longest. But it was like an example of a longer one because a lot of the songs, like I said, just kind of sort of write themselves a little bit. I'm just like, you
Yeah.
know, get into a zone and just flows out.
Do you write like, so in that zone, are you able to just like stay there and just continue to write and write and write? Or is it just that zone for like one song? How does that work for you?
That's a great question too. I don't have, you know, I don't have full control over that zone. I'll tell you that much. I can't
Yeah.
like, I can't necessarily turn it on, but I
Yeah.
will say that I think there's just something really unique about how each combination of people like connect, you know,
Hmm.
like each me and someone else
Yeah.
is so different from me and someone else, you know, or someone else and someone else. Like, and so there's certain people who I find like I get in the room with. My main producer for that last couple records, really, we just get in the room and it's like we just enter that flow state almost,
Mm.
and it for some reason it's so much. I don't know. There's something like something beyond our bodies or something must be happening because it's like it becomes like not only like effortless but like
Mhm.
pleasurable. It's like
Yeah.
this nothing feels better than writing this right now. You know,
Yeah.
like and then listening to it throughout the evening and like, you know, and then I don't know.
Yeah. No, I totally understand.
So
Do you
so
have like a process before you guys get into it? Like me and my friend, we have to like have a talk of like hello, how are you kind of talk, and like get out all of our hellos, and then uh bring in our munchies and our drinks, and then we hunker down. Like
yeah, for like so I wrote like 25 songs for that album and I put out half of them through
yeah.
like an EP and the album, and he was living in LA and he's still down there in California. He moved from Seattle, and
Oh,
so I had this crazy like 6 months where my friend worked at the airline, and
yeah.
he, because his girlfriend worked there too and his mom was like worked at a different airline, he had the free flying, so he gave that to me for 6 months. He was like, hey man, you're my whatever, and I was like, what does that
Yeah.
mean? And then he just sent me some wings, you know, like a wings emoji, and
Yeah.
I was like, no. So I could fly standby for like
Yeah.
6 months for free. So I just went to LA a handful of times during that 6 months, and so when I would go down there, it was like he was really about like kind of dirtbagging it and spending as little money as possible, you know? So we would like go to the grocery store and buy a bunch of food for the week or the weekend, depending on how
Yeah.
long I was down there. And we would just like cook that food. And all along that way, we just talk about what was going on, you know, like in our lives, you know, just check in about like our families, our relationships, our friends, or, you know,
Yeah.
just like, and so and usually it's like we the conversation would go a little bit deep, you know, it'd be like, you know, maybe something that you're like wrestling with or anxious about or whatever, you know, and then that's what would come through in the songs. So
Oh,
then we get into the room, he'd start playing some, we'd find like a loop to play with, and
yeah.
then it would just be like, again, like the words would just start writing themselves. And it's so funny because there's other times where I sit and try to write songs like maybe by myself or with someone else where I really have to work, you know, like
Yeah.
and sometimes I'm like, I can't even do it. I can't even write songs. I don't even know how I ever wrote a song.
Yeah.
And and other times
I have
I
that
work.
feeling constantly.
Yeah, yeah. No, I've been in that feeling. I feel like for a few weeks. I wrote something recently, but like it's been a while.
Yeah.
Post album, I always need like to refill my well for a while, you know.
Yeah.
But it other times I do I you know, I've been doing it for long enough that like I can just work. You know, I can like I
Yeah.
can make a song. Even if it doesn't flow out effortlessly, I can push until it kind of push until the
That's
tipping point and
yeah,
then
yeah.
ride the water slide down.
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Do you is there a collaborator that you're kind of hoping that you can work with one day?
Yeah, someone asked me something like that recently, and I don't know. It's like I got to think about it a lot. There's something in my ethos, like just what I'm inspired by and what I don't know, just kind of how I see things that I just love working with like people around me or like my
Mm-hmm.
friends, which is not like the most like savvy business maneuver or something, but it's just it's like part of my kind of like I don't know my spiritual musical thing that I'm like music is trying to exude out of reality. So
Yeah.
I'm interested in like writing and co-writing on some level with people who like understand songwriting, but
Yeah.
my kind of natural impulse is like what's the music that's here right now, or like what's what's and then yeah, so that's a not a great answer, but like there's definitely you know what it is? You know who I'd love to work with is Jack Johnson. Uh
Yeah.
his he
Lyricist.
wrote
Yeah.
yeah, his record I haven't listened that much to his last like four records, but one of
Yeah.
them he wrote when I was like in middle school maybe or like early high school or something, and it was just so formative.
Yeah.
The In Between Dreams, are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
The yellow one?
Yeah.
Um, that record to me is like kind of like almost like one big song, but in an incredible way. Like there's so much variance, but like it's really just so cohesive. The way it all clicks together, like I just
Yes.
his lyricism is incredible. Like it's
Yeah.
so his even rhyme schemes and like his images and metaphors and all that. And I just love how his songs are kind of like these just like beachy sort of prayers to life, or like love songs to life. Like he
Yeah.
just I know that's corny to some people too, but like I don't know, it just spoke to me so deeply. I was like, I grew up, on Northwest beaches, which is very different from Maui beaches or wherever
Yeah.
Hawaii beach is. But the salt water is still such a part of my life and part of my like being, and so that always spoke to me a lot, like
Yeah. That's
so I'd
awesome.
say him.
I mean, that's a great choice. He's
A good
just so
reach.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just so great at lyricism, and I appreciate artists that are like that, and I've seen so many local artists that are like that too, and it's just like I envy that because I write songs too, but you're always like man, I wish I could have wrote that song, like just because there's also like all these songs that are like so brilliantly done, and you're just like I have something to aspire to.
Yeah. I
you know
know, but it's so funny because the place that the songs really come from is so separate from that part too. It's like
yeah,
our egos just kind of like try to, yeah. But I feel you
totally.
on the comparisons, or when you hear something that's like really dope, you're like, oh, I wish I could
Oh,
have made that,
yeah.
but like when you're in the zone, you're not thinking about that at all. It's just like
Right.
it just is a raw like
Yeah.
you're touching the wire, or whatever,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just
Oh
the
my
currents
gosh.
coming through.
It's one of those things that like I find that like it's it's kind of like a catch 22 because when you're in that moment it's like it's all you can think about is that song or that idea or whatever, and to get it out, and then
Oh yeah.
and you're like, oh, you walk away going, oh, this is the best shit I've ever written, and then and then I don't know, a week later or whatever the time frame is, you hear something else and you're like, oh, but that shit's still good, like I still did good.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I struggle
Oh,
so
totally.
much, and I mean, I've been writing for almost 20 years, and I've had several songs out, but it's still one of those things where like you still feel like you could always be better. Like music is never. I think music is infinitely like the one thing that you can never know everything about.
Mm,
And so
yeah.
it's you can never know everything. You can never know all of the guitar riffs and all of the or chords. You can never know everything because even if you are really great at it, there's still so much more to know. And
Totally.
so um, I guess that's why I'm always aspiring because it's the one thing I'll probably never be a master at.
I love that. I mean, and there's it reflects like the mystery in life too, like
Yes.
like
Yeah.
there's we don't know it all and we can't know it all, you know, and music
Yeah.
kind of reflects that part, that unknown part, you know, like, or like people always say, saying what can't be said, you know, or like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's what's that saying? Music where words fail, music speaks or something like that,
Oh yeah, there we
you
go.
know?
Yes.
So yeah, I mean I truly believe it because it's one of those things that like, and when you have good people that you're walking in the door with who understand you as a musician and you understand them and where they're coming from, it's almost magic really, and
Yes.
I think that's what you're talking about, this like effortless um effortless writing, because it's like you walk in almost knowing exactly what you guys both want to do, and where it comes from. And so I find that too with the person I write with too. She's like, we walk in and after our hellos and stuff, it's just like we can pump out a song in like 2 hours, sometimes. The
Yeah,
first one
yeah.
we ever did was like it was like, I don't know, 5 days, but it's gotten better since then.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things I think is just so cool because you can always improve, and you can always, the more people you bring into it, the more ideas and the better the song could be, that you never
Totally.
could be.
And I was gonna say too, I just love so much writing with other people, even though like writing without one producer friend, like it flows so much, but writing with other people, it just like it's always just touches different muscles, you know, different
Yeah,
it's like just such a different, yeah, it just expands what's possible, you know, and just kind of
yeah,
opens it up. And I will say that also, like, we will so often write the core of the song, you know, like the chords and the, you know, like
yeah,
he's a producer, so he'll produce most of it, and I'll write the lyrics and the melodies or whatever. And then
yeah,
we'll so often though, like I kind of take a secondary producer role where then if it's like I hold the like kind of core vision for a song, and so if I'm like, man, this could be better if we
yeah,
got someone else doing something else on it, you know? So a
yeah,
lot of times I'll like find another musician to like add something. And usually it's like
yeah,
out of like who I know, you know?
yeah, yeah,
And
and
just try
that's
to like,
that's
yeah.
the thing. I'm sorry. Oh, I talked over you. What was
No,
that?
no, just yeah, yeah, yeah. Just to take it to that next level, I guess,
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
with
right.
other people.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's what's great about it, being able to find your tribe of people that allow you to do that and be safe to do it, because, in the end, it is kind of your baby, and you kind of, um, you know,
Trust. There's got to be
trust the other
trust.
people with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're like
That's
almost
hard.
giving them that vulnerability out on your sleeve. And it's like, do I really want to do that? With all these
Totally.
people.
I will, you know what, to that exact point, I think that sometimes I said, you know, I love to work with my friends and I always make new friends. So it's not like
Yeah.
that's, but I do think sometimes there's a little bit of fear or like,
Yeah.
you know, like my precious energy
Yeah.
or whatever, where I'm
Hesitation.
like, okay, they're a known quantity because they're my friends. So it's
Yeah.
like, so I think that's one of my growth edges I'm trying to push on is like,
Yeah.
also, you know, get outside to more, yeah, more
Yeah.
acquaintances and whatnot.
For sure. So with this album, where did you have a vision for it, like in the beginning, or did it just kind of evolve into what it became?
Yeah, so this record was just a really cool experience. Creating it was really cool. Like I said, I went back and forth. Like I went down to LA a bunch of times,
Yeah.
and we'd make our big pot of soup and eat that for all weekend, and just like stay home and record, and then go on walks, and then or we weren't recording, but we were writing, and then go on walks, then we write again, and we made like 25 songs probably. So at the beginning of that, I did not have a vision. No, I was just like, we're making songs, you know. But the first one we made was probably the third track, Touch Ground, and I think, and you know, I could just feel when the songs were like maybe album songs, you know,
Okay.
like you can kind of feel the like, okay, this one is a good song, but it's not like that. It doesn't have the I kind of think about it like how how do I put that? It's like some almost synesthesia. Like I think about the certain ones have this sort of like golden energy to me where I'm
Okay.
like, okay, that's like one that's like an evolution. Like I'm stepping into a new territory
Yeah.
creatively, and like hopefully I can like this can be the new bar for myself.
Yeah.
And two, those ones just have this resonance that like seems to also kind of affect people differently, you know?
Yeah.
So we made all these songs over the course of like basically up until the last session was a long session and it was January 2020.
Wow. Okay.
Late January 2020, so right before pandemic,
Everything
and I had a
happened.
show like right after it, and so I got home and did a show, and that was super cool. But I was there for like 7 or 8 days. It was like a
Wow.
proper trip, and this was like the one where we were like trying to do it, you know. In the
Yeah.
first session, we made the title track, "What's Good," and that beat to me is so crazy, and it just
It's
like
good.
had this cool energy. And so that week, back to your original question, that week, just more of the songs fleshed out, and so like on like night 2 or 3 some friends of his came over and they were kind of chilling and like watching some TV or whatever, and we were just taking a break, you know, having some social time. But I was like, yo, I'm here to work. I mean, you know, so I was like in my phone just like
Yeah.
looking at these songs, and like titles really come to me really easily too. Like they just kind of like there's
Yeah.
just like an energy with words where I'm like, yeah, that's the song.
Yeah.
The title becomes a container for the song, kind of like a
Yeah.
thesis, very subtle. It's like, you know, 1 word, 2 words, but like touch ground or like, you know.
Yeah.
So I was playing with my titles and just thinking about the songs and which ones went together, and I was like, oh man, like these five feel real wintry, and like they go together though, and they're not like flagship like album songs, but they're just like they're still really special to me, you know.
Yeah.
So I put those together for this EP called Thaw, and one of them was called Thaw, and so I was like, okay, those five songs, they want to go together. I
Yeah.
think a side note, a big thing that I think about is like being in relationship with the project or with the songs. Like being like, instead of being like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Just be like, what do the songs want? You know,
Yeah.
like, and if I'm like paying them like deep attention, if I'm like opening my heart to the songs, to the music, then like it'll be clear, you know, and all I
Yeah.
got to do is like not let my ego ruin it, you know,
Yeah.
like
Right.
just listen. So that night I put those five together. I was like sick. Maybe it was six even at the time, but I took one out. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I looked at these other 7 songs and I was like, these ones all, and I started putting them in order, and I was like, oh yeah, like oh, and then the title could be What's Good, and then like that has these layers or whatever, and then I was looking at it and I was like, holy shit, these song titles form a haiku.
Wow.
And haikus, okay, two things. One, haikus have always been my favorite kind of like poem, you know? Like
Yeah.
I feel like I have very like poet soul, but like I don't read poetry. I don't but to me poetry is like rap music, you know? Like
Yeah.
that's where I or just any writing that I mean I find poetry in things, but I don't like seek out poetry, if that
Yeah.
makes
For sure.
sense. Like the spirit of poetry I'm all about, and like poetic language and all that, but I don't like go read poems. So I don't always think of myself as a poet, you know?
Yeah.
But haikus I've always loved because of their just simplicity, you know, and like how it's kind of like a little vignette with like
Yeah.
a little bit of a turn, you know, in it, and like I love that. So, and I had joked my old like Instagram profile was like dream hop songs and haikus or something like that, you know. And so anyways, I'm looking at the album or at the song titles, and I was like, whoa, like, and I started counting. I was like, holy shit, it's a haiku, because it also makes sense. Like, it's like, imagine what's good, touch ground, plant seeds, drink water,
Yeah.
flickering visions, you know? And
Yeah.
so when that happened, I think I had to change flicker to flickering, and I had to change seeds to plant seeds. And I was like, okay, we got the haiku, let's do it. And
That's great.
yeah,
It
it
just
was
kind
really
of
cool.
happened, which is kind of
Yeah,
cool. Like, considering
such
you
a
love that
process
type
of
of.
discovery.
Yeah, it's amazing. That's really cool. So, can you take one of the songs off the album and kind of go in depth with it? Like maybe your favorite one or one that means something to you, and just kind of go a little bit in depth with it and why it means so much?
Yeah, I mean, they all mean a lot.
I know.
Uh,
I know as I know
yeah,
as a
you know,
heartbroken.
as for me, let's see. I guess I'll say, I mean, I'll say the drink water is
Okay.
one that just I feel like I just feel like there's nothing. I've heard like songs where people are like being educational or whatever, and that's not really what I'm doing, you know?
Yeah.
Like with that song, it's like I think of it kind of like a tone poem, you know?
Mm.
And it's like I think I'm really interested in nonlinear storytelling,
Yeah.
like almost like the song sort of like emerges around you like a rising pool of water. Like it's not I'm not like telling you this happened and then this happened and then this happened. It's more like a mandala or something.
Yeah.
It's like and I think that it just exemplifies something that I've always admired in other writers, but that no one talks about, and that like I've really cultivated in my own writing, which was like uh, in I had a course in college that called this thing like the holographic image, and I've been looking for it. I've been trying to find it, but I haven't found it anywhere. But it's the idea that you can say big ideas with small details,
Mm.
right? And like most, I
Okay.
mean, in writing, that's such a common thing, right? But like the example was like this war reporter was in, you know, somewhere in Europe during like early pre-World War II or whatever, and he starts talking about how this can of peach juice is leaking because it's been hit by a bullet, you know, next to them. He's like describing the scene, and he just puts you there, like holographic, like it rises up around you. And so I've always tried to bring that into my writing, like, and it just comes very naturally to me too. Like, I take photos and stuff too, and when I was learning how to do that, people were always like, "How come you're not taking photos just like of us, like a port, you know?" And like, I was like, "Oh, I think of it more like I'm painting in all these details, so it feels like you're there, you know." So with that song, I feel like it's just a strong example of like there's not like I said, it's not linear at all. It just kind of like rises up around you, and then you're like in it, you're swimming in it, you
Yeah.
know. And the song's about water, you know, and it's just
Yeah.
kind of a
It just kind of
it's just
consumes you.
yeah. It's just hopefully you know it fills you up a little bit.
Yeah.
But people really like that one live. It's really fun, and it's just kind of I think it's really unique because like I said, you hear like nerdy or not I don't know, nerd whatever educational rap like people will be like oh you know and
Yeah.
I don't know like to me like I wouldn't listen to that really but like this I feel like I would listen to because
Yeah.
it's not like trying to be something it's just like how I feel about it you know like and
Yeah.
it's like taking these different observations these different little vignettes you know and kind of like word painting like you know rivers and streams seashores in my dreams I smelt sin of steam cloud bursts make it green
Yeah.
you know, it's just all these like watery ideas, and the beat just sounded like that to me. It just
Yeah.
sounded like, oh, I'm like wading into the Puget Sound right now, like, and so, and then also, so that one, I wrote the first two verses like immediately, I think, like in the studio, and literally that one we wrote in like 25 minutes, like right before I went and caught a plane. You know, it was like,
Oh
oh,
my
this is our last session, and so we did some other song, and then like we were like, and then he just like we were gonna be done, but he just was like, I don't know, he just had an idea, so he just was like, wait a sec, and then he just plays those chords like, dun, dun, you know, and like
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, and so we just boom, just wrote it. But the third verse I wrote a few months later, maybe I was just having this crazy like life experience where like everything was kind of crashing down around, you know, kind of
Yeah.
like a tower card, tarot energy, like everything's falling apart
Yeah.
and I went to the library and I found this book. I was like really in dire straits, had no money in my bank account, just was
Yeah.
like, so I did this yoga class because I had already paid for the whatever, you know, down
Yeah.
in Columbia City. I had already had the whatever, and I was like, all I can do until I next get paid is like do that and like eat what's in the fridge. I don't know.
Yeah.
And but I went to the library. I was like, you know what's else? The library is also free. So I went to the Columbia City Library and I like opened this book and again I'm like in deep struggles for like weeks. I'm just like internally, you know, just
Yeah.
like things are not and I open this book and I see this funky looking fish. The book's called I Am Puget Sound or We Are Puget Sound, I mean.
Okay.
And it's like an organization around here actually. So it's like a
Okay.
kind of a fundraiser book or whatever. But the library had it and I open up and I see this fish and this fish something just like breaks open inside of me. I just was like God is I mean like
Yeah.
universe like you're like I felt like I was being seen by this fish
Right.
in this book and it just like broke me open, and I started like
Wow.
crying in the library, and
What?
I'm like reading this book. I'm like, yo, I need to get this book somehow. And I
Yeah.
checked it out, and I leave, and I'm like, get on the light rail, and I'm just like trying not to like be crying, but I'm just like broken open in this crazy way. And then
Oh,
I'm walking up home, and I walk through this park, and I just finally just have to sit down. Like I finally sit down next to something and just like weep, and actually just like
amazing.
cry.
Yeah.
And I was just like, dude, the what up, Chris? I was just like, you know what? It was crazy. I had this recognition suddenly that like, whoa, like all water is connected. You know, like it's all the same substance, right? It's like on an
Yeah.
elemental molecular level, it's the same thing. And people always talk about, you see those little things on the internet like, oh, like water crystallizes based on the energy that's being like sent to it or something, you know,
Yeah.
into different forms, right? And I was thinking about that, and then I was like crying. So I was like, whoa, water's coming out of my face right now, like, but that's connected to like if I drink a beer later, you know, like the same, there's water in that too. And then there's
Yeah.
water in the ocean, the most vast, you know, I'm stretching my arms out. You just can't see.
Yeah.
The most that, you know, like there's so much. And then there's, but it's also just a little teardrop in your
Yeah.
eye. And it's like something about the profundity of that, and how also it's like the basis for life. You know, I
Yes.
mean, it's not the only one, but it's like a basis for life. Like literally, I was like feeling, I was like, this is like, it's like this massive being
Yeah.
that supports us on this
Yeah.
planet, you know, and it takes up most of the earth, and it takes up most of our bodies. And I just, you know, I just like had this whole this crazy revelation. And during that, while I'm sitting on the ground like crying like a psycho, I wrote the third verse. And
Wow.
so, and then I didn't even know
You
it was
just
to the
needed that
song. I was just like,
release.
is it, say it again?
You just needed that release maybe of just like what
Yeah.
you're holding in and just
Yeah.
like that just
Oh,
had to trigger it.
no joke, because after that, I mean, for one, I was like in that state for like a day and a half. Like I was just like
Wow.
this like ecstatic like I'd see the tree, like a leaf in the tree, like go like this, and I would just start crying, just like, oh my God,
Wow.
that's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And for some reason, no one was home that day, and or none of my roommates were around, and like I didn't
Yeah.
have to work the next day, so I just was able to just like be in
Yeah.
that. And it was really profound. And then I realized that the thing I had written, um yeah, like it's the water in our tears, same water in our beers, water
Yeah.
like a mirror proof, God is always near, water cycled through the skies, water got us in the clear, if we listen to the water, there ain't nothing left to fear. It was just like having this profound like recognition
Amazing.
and realization of
Yeah.
like what this substance is for us, you
Yeah.
know, and how much it must love us in a weird way, like as
For
crazy
sure.
as that sounds, like to
But you're
support
right. It's
our
everywhere. Yeah. It
to
supports
support our
everything.
very like being.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah, so
crazy. And I find that really cool that like, you know, the like just looking at a picture of like that just gets me. I'm very shocked by this because it's just like you look at a picture of a fish and you're just like, oh my God, my life. And the whole perspective of life just like bloomed
yeah,
from
it
one
changed me as a being for
Yeah.
sure. It was so crazy. It's just like, but I mean, that's how life is sometimes, you know, like
Yeah.
just like the right thing at the right
Wow.
moment, you know, and
Yeah.
like you have like a pivot point, and like those are kind of some of the most beautiful times. And I don't think I would have reached that had I not been going through such a crisis
Right.
in myself, you know. So it was like a gift of like kind of like going into the darkness, you know,
Yeah.
and then that I think that like brought my walls down, like kind of my just ego walls down to such a degree that then I just, you know, and like I said, like no money, no, like I'm like,
Yeah.
so it just felt like I had no, all I could do was the freest thing, you know. So I went and did that, and because I was so opened up like that and raw,
Yeah.
I was so raw, the
Yeah.
fish just like, boo, it was like the universe just used that to like turn like a key in a lock and just open something up. And
Yeah.
so
The
anyways,
floodgates opened.
yeah, the flood, yeah, see, and then yeah, so part of it is just playing with all these watery words too, you know.
Yeah.
That's the other thing about the song, is it's just so playful, like I'm just
Yeah.
like messing around, you know. It's just like just playing with language, you know, and with like
Yeah.
these watery words. And again, it's not like story per se, but it kind of conveys something, conveys an experience.
Yes.
So that's my deep dive. Another water combo word is that song. Yeah, I mean, I could do, something like that for all of them, but that one is the one right now.
Yeah. But I feel like that's so, like, it speaks to who you are, right? It just kind of gives a little bit of who you are as a person and how you see music, and how, again, like in the beginning of the conversation, music can just be, endless. It can just heal you. It can be the answer to it can be the light in the dark. It can be everything, and it's what you make it, I think. And
Totally. And turning the dark, or like, it's one of the most powerful things about music for me is like transmuting,
yeah,
like taking what was dark and making something out of it.
yeah,
And
right.
that process, I think, is like the most powerful process there is, in a way, is like
Yeah, for sure.
take, taking hardship or joy or anything and making something out of it, like that's
Yeah,
like where I mean, yeah, it's like the wizardry of music and, creativity, really.
yeah, for sure. Do you
Oh,
so
wait, one last thing. No, I
okay.
forget. Never mind. If it comes back to me. Oh, yeah. Oh, never. It's not even that good of a thing. No, but I'm like a double Pisces, like Pisces sun and moon with all the astrology
Yeah,
stuff. So like, and I just literally grew up like swimming in the Sound, like just
yeah,
close to the beach, and so yeah, the water, yeah, it's just like it echoes through my whole life story and experience too. Really, also this water too is what I love the most. Like the Puget Sound, Salish Sea, like this water
yeah.
body is like really
Me too.
I just, yeah, yeah. I mean, it supports our lives here. It's like
Yeah,
there's food, and I just thought about like I've been to like all the different kind of corners of it, like throughout my life. So that was part of the profundity of that whole thing. But
oh yeah.
anyways, great question.
Well, great answer. I mean, that was fantastic. Most people are like, "Oh yeah, it just meant a lot to me," and that was just like so deep. I loved it so much. I
Oh,
was intrigued.
I could have said that. No, just
No, I like the more interesting answers. Um, do you have, like, how do I ask this? Are you one of those with, when you make an album, is there a kind of thought to it as to what's going to happen next, or do you just kind of allow it to be? It seemed like these songs just kind of came about because of what you had written, and they just are what they are. But then do you go forward and be like, okay, I'm gonna kind of connect it to this one, and it's gonna go, or do you see what I'm saying? Like,
do you mean like conceptually
yes,
or?
conception. Yeah, yes, like
Oh yeah,
if the concepts are gonna be kind of ongoing, like,
yeah.
the first one's love, the second one's life, the third one's, I don't know, whatever,
Dude, no, so much of my I mean, I think of music also as like so much like it's like world building on some
uh,
level, like you're weaving this kind of like spell, this kind of, like I said, it's like an experience. You're like
yeah,
an immersive experience. So I'm always thinking about immersive experience. Like that's always in my mind. And I'm like, how do I do that? And then like with like the release show, with the album, with the art, with the way that the songs might reference each other and be connected.
yeah,
So one, I'll say that like I've made records for the past 10 years or whatever, and like a lot of them have been just like demos leading towards like this is the most polished, the most realized vision.
yeah,
But I made one called Wander. That was when I first started going by the Broadcast, or using the Broadcast as my project title or
yeah,
whatever. It's called Wander. And then like, and it was like lightly conceptual, it feels like a play kind of to me. Like
yeah,
I don't know if anyone else got that, but like, it like, and it goes through these different like kind of feelings and realms, and it's very fallish as well. I'm
yeah.
very like seasons really impact my creativity.
Okay.
Natural cycles, like the moon, seasons, tides, like all that is just like what
Yeah.
because life is, because our modern world does not honor or respect cycles,
Yes.
and it's, I think we should, like, it's so
Yeah.
important. Like we can't just be the same type of productive all the time. So the moon shows us that, the tides show us that, the seasons show us that, like there's times for rest and for like recovery, and there's times for
Yeah.
blooming and blossoming and all that. um I forget even what I'm talking about. Oh, records. Okay. Wander. So then I went on this trip. wander, right? Like, and the idea was like kind of like learning and following my intuition in my life. Um, and like kind of like finding my own like way, I guess, instead of like what I was necessarily raised with or guided towards, you know?
Yeah.
So it was like really like just internal exploration around all that. And then I ended up just by through my friend, whatever, we ended up buying a van and driving around the country for like 3 months. So we went and wandered, you know, like
Yeah.
we grew up here in what we grew up in West Seattle, my
Yeah.
friend and I, and we were like, man, we should go see more of the world, you know, or like
Yeah.
this land that we're on, this massive whatever. So we drove around the country for 3 months, and we're driving through the rock, and we had just crazy experiences, you know, just nutty experiences of just like that water story, but like different variations on
God.
like
Yeah.
just being. We lived in this van basically, or in tents, or at like friends of friends or friends' houses, you know, in
Yeah.
different cities around the country. And people were like, "So is it like a tour?" I was like, "Well, it's more like a recon mission, you know. We're
Right.
just like seeing what's going on out there, you know. Like
Yeah.
I don't have enough fans to do like a tour, so we're just out there. But
Yeah.
in the
Great
Rocky
material
Mountains,
though.
yeah. Well, I'm gonna say so in the Rocky Mountains, we're driving along, and we'd been listening to hella CDs because that's what we had. So every city we'd go to a used CD store and buy a couple more CDs,
Yeah.
and we were listening to like the Beatles record, Sergeant Pepper,
Yeah.
and a lot. So we were just sitting there in the van driving through the Rockies, having left like our homie in Colorado Springs, maybe on the way to Denver, something
Hmm.
like that. And we were just all of a sudden I was like, bro, I gotta go to the back of the van. I just had like a brain blast, you know. I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, I just heard something. I started writing this song called Somewhere. And so that became the centerpiece for my next record, which was called Somewhere. And so then it was this weird thing where I was like, whoa, wander somewhere. You
Yeah.
know, and it was like there's conceptual tie here, you know.
Yeah.
And so I love like these all feel like different I mean, on one level, they're just different chapters of my life. You know, it's like my
For
journal. It's
sure.
like, but it's
Yeah.
just like in the world. And you know, listening back to old songs is such a cool because everybody talks about how songs make you feel like you used to feel or whatever. You know, it's like
Yeah.
there's such a powerful nostalgia. So when you're writing your own, it's like that times a million. You know, you're just like, whoa, and but you do start to like
Jump
hate
back
them
in
more
that
than
place. Yeah.
yeah. You're a little more critical of them, but when you can
Yeah.
let go of that and just hear them, it's so powerful because you're like,
Yeah.
wow, that's like who I was,
Yeah.
and that's in me still. So, anyways, the song though was like, picture yourself on a road through the Rockies. The aspens turn yellow, the clouds look divine. Lines in the road mark the ways that you travel away from your home on a journey to find a picture of your soul on a path through the cosmos. Lie on your back, see the stars look divine. Dust in your rear views where no one can hear you. Sink to the void just to see what you find. So just like kind of an interpolation, you know, or like a sample, but like flipping. You know, I was like in hip hop music, they always like will listen to old lines and like flip it in a new way, like forever,
Yeah.
ever, forever, ever. But you know, like
Yeah.
so I was like, why not like with a Beatles song too? You know, like
Yeah.
instead of that picture yourself in a river, you know,
Yeah.
the Lucy in the Sky or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was having like this equally psychedelic experience, but without being, I was just from traveling, just from being out in the world. So, anyways,
Amazing.
Stadium, that turned into like this travel record basically.
Yeah.
But again, it was like the next chapter of my life. That was like the thing, you know, we spent a year like saving up money for this trip and like,
Mm.
and then I didn't have a lease. I literally didn't live anywhere, you know, and like all my stuff was either in the van or it was like under my sister's stairs at her
Yeah.
house. You
Yeah.
know, like for a little bit, I pared down all my, you know, so it was like my whole life was about this. And so
Yeah.
then it turned into a record. So like 2 years after the trip, I put out that record. There was a lot of delays in between. And then I built a band for a while out of that. And so I was playing with a band And at first it was like a hybrid, like we had like beats, but we take out the drums and bass. We'd have live drums and bass, more energy. My friend, dear friend Holly the Riot, was singing with me on a lot of
Yeah,
stuff, and so
sure.
yeah, so she sang a lot on the Wander EP live, but she was never on, or demo, whatever it was. She was never on the record. And
Okay.
then for this one, she was actually on the record a few times, so that was
That's
really cool.
cool.
And then like we played, then we had a full band for a while, and that was like the dopest thing. But like it was just hard to get everybody's schedules all lined up, and I didn't. It
Yeah,
wasn't like it was like for the love, you know. Like
for sure.
we weren't walking with any money. We were just playing show, you know. So it just kind of like it got to a point where we played a rad festival, the Upstream. Remember the
Oh,
Upstream a few years ago?
yeah.
We played at Upstream,
Gosh.
but like that weekend, I just was like, it just wasn't like clicking for me. We had some personnel changes, and it just got hard, you know, and it just started feeling like I was forcing too much. So that weekend, I basically like dismantled the band. Like I mean, we went to the whole festival, we played, but I was like, I'm not having fun. Like this is, I don't know why, it's just not fun anymore. So
Yeah.
I was like, I sat down with a couple of the members, like at the very end of the festival. We're just at some bar down there having a beer, and I was just like, guys, I gotta stop. I gotta like take a break or whatever. I don't know. And so I just like gave, like, I don't know, I just had to let go. Um, but then it was so crazy because in the letting go, I ended up like, I don't know, connecting with another dude who I had like, we had accidentally digitally collaborated. Like he had made a beat with my friend who sent it to me. I had written a song, sent it back to him. He was like, "Oh, you can't use that." I was like, "Damn, okay." And then like, and then he never used it. So I was like, "Bro, can I just use it?" And
Yeah.
no, then I met the dude who played on it, and I was like, "Oh." And so that's my friend who ended up moving to LA. But before he moved to LA, we wrote like 12 songs, me and him and his friend Kyle, who goes by Winks, who's a rad musician and producer up here, and a dear friend. So yeah, so I met them, and it just like again, it that was the first experience of that effortlessness, you know. So
Yeah.
we wrote these 12 songs, and then he moved to LA like the next week.
Yeah.
Literally in the last song of the album, the lyrics are like, if I remember, packed up the bed, pack something up, like sell the bed frame. Because in one of our sessions, we literally had to stop and sell his bed frame to somebody from Craigslist, you know? And it like, and again, it just gets into the song where you're just
Yeah.
like, that's what's happening. You know, the song was
Yeah.
called Believin', but it was like be leaving. It was about like leaving and seasons changing. And the record
Yeah.
was really summery, and it was like summer into fall. And Kyle played this incredible little guitar thing that just felt like leaves falling all around you. And
That's so cool.
anyway, so that third album was Discovery. So then it was like, oh shit, Wander,
Yeah.
Somewhere, Discovery.
Discovery. Yeah. Oh my God.
So I
What
don't
a
know. So
concept.
things like that. Yeah, yeah. And then Thaw was kind of like its own thing, but it was also wintry. Whereas Wander was fall, Somewhere was kind of like travel, I guess.
Yeah.
Discovery was summer, and then Thaw was winter, and then What's Good is spring. You know, so there's different ways they all connect. Back to your
Yeah.
original question, there's different ways they all connect, but it's very conceptual in my mind. I'm like, these are all these different like kind of realms or worlds in this like in kind of an inner way. You know, like
Yeah. Well, and also like thaw can be a piece of the discovery and what you've kind of let go of, right? And
yeah,
what you've discovered in this travel and in this wandering mind of yours of where you took your music and how you were going to do it. And thaw's just kind of like the old person's thought off, and you're this new person now.
I love
And
it.
and that's kind of what I was thinking as you were saying. I was like,
Yeah.
this means a new person.
Yeah. So to your question, I'm always thinking very conceptually, but again,
Yeah.
not necessarily in a linear way.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you
That's
know,
what
like,
it's like.
but
Yeah.
it's also like they all swirl together in different ways, and they all
It's
have these different ways that they connect to each other.
yeah.
I've always been really intrigued by internal frames of reference in songwriting, like when, you know, somebody talks about this, and like then in another song they say the same name or something, and you're as a listener, I was always, dude, I want to know about that
Sorry.
person. Oh no, I'm like, I want to know like why is that in two songs, you know? So yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah.
definitely, that's
I love
definitely in
it.
my
Yeah.
awareness.
Yeah. I I'm so lyric driven. Like I definitely when I listen to an album, I will listen to it and see what connects and how it's connected and why the songs are put on the album together, and
Yeah.
what the idea behind each one is, and just being able to figure out the synopsis of the whole thing to be able to again consume myself in whatever the artist is trying to convey, you know
Yeah.
and so it's really like it's something that I really find, when somebody's like, listen to this, I'm like, well, okay, but then I'll try go and find, if it's just one song, then I'll usually listen to it a couple of times, but um if it's a whole song and has a whole album, then I'm usually like, hey, I'm going to listen to the album, because that one song, yes, maybe that person thinks that's the greatest song, but to each his own, maybe I'll like the first song and they like the last one, you know? So I'm
Yeah.
always like, I'm going to listen to whatever else they have, because, I want to understand the whole picture rather than just a part of it, you know?
I love that. Yeah. And I think earlier, I've always had this weird whole picture sense ability.
Yeah.
And earlier on, I feel like sometimes I would get so hung up on the big picture that I
Yeah.
would not, like, and so I've gotten better and better over the years at like making sure that each of the parts is also, like as is just as important, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I agree with
I
that.
mean, in
Like I think,
creating.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really like an important part of it too, is making sure it all does cohesively go together, and that it's all kind of, a part of the big picture. But, I think it's really cool when you can take a concept and really draw people in with it, where each song kind of brings you closer and closer to, the thought behind the whole thing.
Yeah. Totally. And I do think for myself, for my own like process and standards for myself or whatever, this the what's good, like that record is the most like that, like it's the
Yeah.
most where like these pieces go together and like they build on each other. And it
Yes.
and it kind of like creates like a whole like world, or like
Yeah.
kind of like a little ethos, a little like philosophy, an idea, and and like, and it's a lot of it's just questions in a way too. Like, I don't know, like these are just things that like are inspiring to me, and like when I
Yeah.
feel the existential like dread of being alive and like feeling like everything's the world, everything's burning, like
Yeah.
these are the things that I look to, and so I think back to one of your earlier questions, like with this record, like I will say that I think I brought into it an intention to make something good, to make
Mhm.
something that could like, um, I don't know, be like helpful, be healing be
Yeah.
medicine for that, for
Yeah.
like just the existential intensity of being alive, but without being like total bubblegum, like I
Yeah.
don't know,
Right.
like it's not like an escape exactly. Like I'm talking about life, and
Yes.
I'm just putting the pieces together in a certain way, And
Yeah.
again, like as I like it really is a discovery process, like it's not like it's not like I was so smart and I like was like, oh, this, like there's moments, but like mostly it's like all I'm doing is noticing that those things go together.
Yeah.
So getting out of the way, is a factor, definitely. And so
So
for this, yeah.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, again, this project to me felt very cohesive. So hopefully that comes through to people who listen, like you were saying,
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah. I listened to a couple of songs, but I really my day was so crazy today I didn't get to listen to all of them. So that's my
Yeah,
goal, is I want to go back and like really listen to it. But
well, you'll have
and
some
now, even more
background.
now, because I'm just so like invested. But um but like, what is the thing that has changed in how you write and your music from Wander to What's Good? In the development of all these things, what is the biggest thing that's changed?
Yeah, I think about this a lot. I think that, and even if I go further back into like old, buried demos and earlier projects with different kind of artistic identities and stuff,
Yeah.
I was always like trying to go so deep so quick, and like what's really changed is that like now I can meet people where they're at, I think, a lot
uh,
better. you know, like up here on the surface in the shallows, but like what's cool is that the depths are still there, you know, like
You're like an
so
iceberg.
yes, so put iceberg, exactly. Classic metaphor. But put another way, um it's just like I think it's just like I'm able to use less words and say more.
Yeah.
And like catchy is not the enemy, you know? Catchy is
Yeah.
like and that's what I love about that Jack Johnson album from earlier, the In Between Dreams. That one has always stood out to me so much because I was like, this is just so listenable.
Yeah.
It just feels good to listen to. And but he's putting these beautiful ideas about like life and how to live, kind
Yeah.
of like, but not in a preachy way, just in like a beautiful way. Like I don't know,
Yeah.
he just and so I feel like there's something to the ye old Trojan horse, you know, like
Yeah.
the old make something that just like feels good, sounds good, but that also has some nutrition, you know,
Yeah.
like some substance in it, hopefully, some spirit, whatever, you know. So I think that like I'm just getting better and better at that. And like the most recent couple things that I've been like that's like the journey I'm on is I want to be able to say less and less words with more and more like in them, but more and more
Yeah.
accessible. So I
Yeah.
wrote something recently that I'm like, damn, this is it. You know, this feels like a pop song, but it's like so much more, but it's like in disguise as a pop
Yeah.
song. You know, it's actually like a deep, like powerful like transmission or what I don't know. That's what the
Yeah.
hope. That's how it feels to me.
Yeah.
That's how it felt to write it, you know, like it's like, whoa, this is like, yeah, but it's like catchy, you know, and it's just like, you know, simple and so the path towards simplicity is what I feel like I'm continually working on, but that also, yeah, is the answer to that question about like, yeah, what's changed is I'm getting more simple, which I think it just
Yeah.
reflects like a more like ability or whatever, like more mastery.
For sure.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, my on that note, like I can appreciate songs that are even if they are catchy. Like they're my favorite band in the whole world that is like my number one favorite band. They have a song from the 90s that was which is going to date me, but whatever. They have a song from the 90s that is the most hated but yet catchiest song you'll ever hear in your life. And nobody bothers to listen to the lyrics, and the lyrics are deep, you know, for
wait,
as
what is
young
it? I gotta know.
Oh my god. Um okay, I guess I'll tell you. It doesn't effing matter.
Maybe
So
I love it too.
it's from Hanson.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And
Okay.
it's called Umbop. And
Oh,
everybody,
yeah.
I mean, everybody on the planet is like,
I grew
oh
up
yeah,
on
I
that
know that
song.
song and whatever. But if you listen to the words, it's exactly what you're describing. Like, it's a catchy pop song, but like, it's also, I mean, it's very 90s too, but like, it's also, if you listen to the words, it's very deep. It's talking about life and generation and, you know, um, and what comes of those things. You know, plant a seed, plant a rose. You never know what's going to grow, you know?
There you
So
go.
it's like,
Dang, I'm gonna have to go back to that one.
just look at the words. You don't have to listen to the song, I guess.
No, I loved it when I was young, you know. I was like, all right,
But
this isn't cool, but it's still kind of bangs, you know.
yeah,
I mean, my my ears like things that sound good and feel good, you know, like
yeah,
so.
yeah.
And
I
you
know.
know, even to that point, this record's still a little like, you know, moving in that direction more than
Yeah,
like there, but it's like, you know, it's pretty accessible,
yeah,
and I like that. Yeah.
yeah. And I think that's what makes it different, right? Is having that being able to be that vulnerable, but also allowing your fans to be accessible to who you are, right? And not hiding behind the vision or the lyrics or whatever. Just allowing them to see a part of who you are and your journey in life, right? And I feel like that's really cool. I mean, that's a really awesome way to go about being able to be a musician. And I think that's what it kind of should be, you know, because music is personal, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, like I feel like there's varying degrees. There's like a spectrum of how personal every song is, but the ones
Yeah.
I love listening to the most a lot of times are so personal, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's funny to write and to get to a certain, like, there was a time when I feel like I could only write really personal, and
Mm.
now it's like I've just have more like, more pen skills and more like I've just practiced so much that like now I feel like I can just write things, but I want to be touching the bone or whatever,
Yeah.
like I want to always be getting closer to that. So that's definitely part of the practice.
What's the thing that you enjoy the most about that you do to that brings you some joy with your fans and connecting with them? Like, what's the, is it on stage? Is it, within the songs and making them? Is it the process of making it and knowing that you're going to put something out? Like, where do you sit with your fans and how you connect with them?
I mean, I can start in the process. The writing and kind of like receiving of I don't know, just like getting the song down is my favorite part,
Mm.
which isn't technically, directly connected to fans or
Yeah.
listeners. Um, but in a way, I feel like it is like kind of just in a sense, and like just I'm like this. That's the part that just feels so good, where it's like
Yeah.
I'm like I can feel the power in myself.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, oh, like this is an idea up here in this cloud, and now it's like it's coming through me, and I'm extruding it into ink or typing or
Yeah.
whatever. Like that just feels so good. And then but I guess like and then my second favorite part about creating is the performing and sharing.
Mm.
So, but it's like, but like back to that immersive experience thing, like not all shows feel that good, you know?
Mm.
So it's like I'm getting more and more of a sense of like how to curate. I mean, I've always wanted to curate my shows, like so whenever I can, I do that, and then there's also times where you can't do that and where like new doors would open if you're not doing that or whatever. But um I just think like it's the best when it's like the whole night is an experience, and
Yeah, for sure.
all the artists are like part of the same or like on a similar wavelength or like, like similarly like or just united in expression or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I've done lots of shows where like sure everybody's playing, but like it's not like cohesive at all. Like
Yeah.
there's no gel, and so
Yeah.
so like I don't know. I mean, at the release show that I did for this record, it was like I felt really good about like how I put it together. Played with this awesome dude Ty Keenan and this group from Bellingham called Lonely Together, and it just like I've been doing that for years. My release shows. So yeah, that's the answer. Release shows. My release shows are always my best work because it's everything that I do comes into play. Um,
Oh, okay.
because
That
I
makes sense.
because curating and putting the night together, like I'm gonna say this, and I don't know if totally people steal it or whatever. But like at the release shows, I always make it like I asked the door person to use my stamp, like so like my logo is on everybody's hand, or
That's
whatever on
cool.
everybody's wrist, and
Yeah.
then like you come through and like lately I've been playing with having hosts. I know lots of people do that. Marshall's a great host.
Yeah.
There's people like that. Playing around with having like hosts, so like the night feels more cohesive. So it's more like, you're going through an experience tonight. It's not
Yeah.
just like, and then getting to play the music and like the release show. I try to bring the collaborators out. So like Kyle, who kind of guest produce on or like he like does additional production throughout the record, plays guitar and stuff. He DJ'd for me that night, and Jules, who sings on the record and plays a little bit of keys on some songs, kind of brings them to life. She played with me, and like when we're all doing that together, and it's just firing, and we're like putting this record out. Like I really think of that moment as like this is when we're casting the spell. This is when
Yeah.
we're like literally casting this thing into the world that was not in the world before.
Yeah.
So like that moment to
Sending
me
it
is yeah, putting it out. I mean, that
Yeah.
moment to me is so special, and so like that's what I most love,
Yeah.
connecting with fans, because that's the moment when you share it with people. When there's like
Yeah.
anyone who's in the audience for that hopefully can feel the gravity of like, yo, this has never happened before, And, you know, like this is
Yeah.
like a new thing that's happening right now. We're bending, we're changing, we're like wrinkling time and space a little bit, you know, by we're putting something that wasn't there before, a new vibration in place. And so everyone who's there is like participating in like that ritual kind of, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah, like
That's cool.
that's what it's about for me, and that's my favorite. And I think it was cool this time because I've done it for years, you know, and this time I feel like people, it was just cool feedback. It was like people were like, people could feel the curation or whatever, like
Yeah.
that
Make
like,
them feel
oh
special.
yeah, like, oh, this isn't just, this is different than a lot of shows I go to. Like
Yeah.
there's something special about this. So
Yeah. I'm totally stealing the stamp idea. I'm just telling you that.
right.
That's a
Uh
fantastic idea.
it's part of the immersion, you know. People
Yeah.
wake up the next day and they read like my, you know, like
Yeah.
the band on them,
Great.
you know, like
It's a great idea. I mean, I feel like we could sit and talk for hours.
right.
And and I've taken up a lot of your time. And so I just want to thank you so much for coming on and for like being so open about it and being so awesome about your music. Like I really appreciate music and I really do love it and I want to just dive into more of it. And I hope you'll come back on because I really love this conversation and I think we need more of it like this. We're really connecting with what it is to be a musician and why music is important and the existential crisis of it all, really.
Oh yeah, that's part of the sauce, you know.
It
I mean,
is.
you can feel though, you can feel when music, when somebody's doing like, I don't know, like there's fun. I'm all about whatever. I like all kinds of music, but you can feel when it's real. You can feel when someone's like, when it's coming from inner experience or whatever, when someone's like, I
agree.
Yeah. Even fun, happy music, even, you know, you can feel if it's coming from that, like, if it's touching the source or whatever. And, yeah, it's fun to talk about, like, how to get there. So thank you as well. I was hoping from this that, because I've been a little, like, I just moved and I've just been a little discombobulated and just have, people have been asking me about shows. I'm like, I don't know, like, so I was hoping this would kind of, like, get me back a little bit, like, and I think it has.
Did we achieve it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yay!
No, I feel back in it in a different way a little bit. Like I said, I've been like really vibing on my guitar right now, so we'll see what kind of reinterpretations of, that's what I want to do, is reinterpret the songs, you know, with more musicians and kind of in different ways. I love them the way they are, but I like live, I want to like, you know, change them and bring them to life. So we'll see if the summer starts stirring that up.
Well, you know, Marshall has Fremont Fridays.
Yeah. I know, I got him up about
if you hit one, tell me and I will be there in a heartbeat.
Yeah, that'll be super fun. Yeah, I'll reach out to him. Yeah,
that's great. Well, again, thank you so much. Please come back on because you're just fantastic, and I can't wait to just dive into more music with you and talk about it. And do you have anything else like you want to say to everybody?
You know, just really be good to yourself. You know, it's not easy to be alive. Actually, no, you know what? Can I just sing the little chorus that I wrote for this song I was talking about?
Yeah.
Star power, here's to waking up our hearts, standing in our sunshine, a light on what we've done. Star power, have some mercy on ourselves, give each other all the break, 'cause it hurts to be awake. Star power, it's the stories that we tell out of pain and insecurity. Blame it all on Mercury. Power, I've been looking to the heavens. All they asked me for was presents. So I don't know, just bring some presents with you. You know, that's what I'm trying to do.
I might have to now.
Always get back to the presents. Get back to right here.
Yep, exactly. Well, everybody, thank you for everybody who joined in. Go follow this guy, check out his music, and let's bring him back on so we can talk more about music because I loved this conversation.
Yeah, this has been great for me too. I appreciate your attention to detail and such, so thank you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I loved it. So, yeah, everybody go follow him. If you have any questions, DM him, or you can DM me and I'll send you his way. But either way, you know, let's give him some love. So, thank you so much again for coming on, and Brody, and I just appreciate you.
Likewise, yeah.
Have a great
Thank
night,
you.
friend.
You too.